Can you even imagine one guy taking over an entire nation's economy, basically creating unbelievable wealth out of thin air, and then watching the whole thing just crash and burn? Well, that's not some work of fiction. It's one of the craziest stories in financial history. And today, we're going to break down exactly how it all went down.
You've got genius, you've got ambition, and you have this colossal gamble that honestly reshaped the world, for better and definitely for worse. This is the unbelievable story of John Law.
So who was this John Law? Well, he was this fascinating, kind of wild mix of contradictions. On one hand, a brilliant mathematician. On the other, a notorious gambler and womanizer. And oh yeah, he was also a convicted murderer on the run.
So Law's dad was a goldsmith, which means he grew up around money and finance. But after he killed a guy in a duel, he had to flee England to avoid being hanged. For the next 20 years, he was on the run, wandering across Europe and basically mastering two things: playing cards and studying the very idea of money itself.
And that's where he cooked up this really radical idea. See, at the time, everybody believed a country's power came from how much gold it had locked away in its vaults. Law was like, nope, you've got it all wrong. He argued that real wealth comes from trade, from industry, from people making and selling stuff. And the key to unlocking all that? You need more money circulating, and you get that with paper money, not a limited supply of shiny metal. It was a revolutionary way of thinking.
So Law takes this idea on the road, pitches it all over Europe, and, well, nobody's buying it. It's too out there. That is, until he finds the perfect customer. A kingdom that was completely, totally, disastrously broke.
Okay, so let's set the scene in France. You had the Sun King, Louis XIV. He was in charge for an insane 72 years. And sure, he built Versailles and made France a powerhouse, but my God, did he spend an unbelievable amount of money doing it.
By the time he died in 1715, all that spending had left France just completely drowning in debt. We're talking 3 billion livres. To put that in perspective, that was about the same as the country's entire economic output for a year. France was, for all intents and purposes, bankrupt.
I mean, get this. The situation was so bad, the new guy in charge was told it would take 1,000 years to pay off the debt. 1,000 years. The kingdom was just paralyzed. So you have this total desperation, and that's the perfect moment for a smooth-talking gambler with a crazy plan to walk in the door. Enter the Duke of Orleans. He's now in charge, and guess what? He happens to be a friend, maybe even a drinking buddy, of John Law's. He's desperate enough to listen, and he gives Law the green light to set up a bank. And this is where the story really takes off.
Okay, so what Law did next was pure financial magic, or hocus pocus, depending on how you look at it. He tells people, hey, that worthless government paper you're holding, you can swap it for two things: brand new paper money from my bank and shares in my exciting new company, the Mississippi Company. Then he unleashes this massive marketing blitz, talking up the Louisiana colony as a land of untold riches, just dripping with gold.
And did it work? Oh, did it work? The result was just pure mania. The company's share price absolutely exploded. It went from 500 livres to a peak of 10,000. That is a 20-fold increase. Not 20%, 20 times. The entire country got swept up in this frenzy.
The streets of Paris, especially this one street where all the trading happened, it was absolute chaos. You had dukes and servants, butchers and maids all scrambling to buy shares. I mean, people were literally climbing down chimneys just to get an audience with John Law. Fortunes were made in an instant.
Think about it. The amount of money being made was so mind-boggling, they had to invent new words for it. The word millionaire, it was literally coined during this exact moment to describe the people getting rich off this scheme. A word we all use today came directly from this bubble. It's just incredible.
But here's the thing, and it's a huge thing. The entire system was built on a mountain of hype. The value of the Mississippi Company was all tied to Louisiana. And in reality, Louisiana wasn't some paradise filled with gold. It was a hot, muggy swamp. One person at the time called it, and I'm quoting here, a complete poo hole. So, to keep this party going, Law's bank just kept the printing presses running. More and more paper money. And this is where the first real crack appears. All this new cash floods the economy, and the price of everything, bread, wine, candles, it goes through the roof. Inflation hit 20% a month. People's life savings were just evaporating. And as you'd expect, people started to panic. They wanted their gold back. And this is where Law, well, he goes from financial visionary to full-on tyrant. The same guy who championed economic freedom now makes it illegal for anyone to own gold coins. He even told people to spy on their neighbors and report anyone they suspected of hoarding gold. It was a desperate move.
And the end? Wow, it came fast and it was brutal. In May of 1720, the government basically admits the money and shares aren't worth what they said they were. Confidence just shatters. Riots break out. A mob finds Law's carriage and rips it to pieces. There's a run on the bank so bad that 14 people are crushed to death in the stampede. By the end of the year, John Law, once the richest man in the world, was fleeing France with nothing.
So, when the dust settled, what was left? The fallout, as you can imagine, was just immense, both for the country of France and for the man who dreamed the whole thing up.
For France, the whole thing was a national trauma. The French were so scarred by the experience, they developed a deep distrust of paper money and central banks that lasted for generations. The government's money problems were never solved. And you can totally draw a straight line from this disaster to the financial crisis that helped light the fuse for the French Revolution.
And John Law, the man himself, he never took the blame, not once. He spent his final years gambling away what little he had left in Venice. He died broke, still insisting his system was perfect and that it was everyone else's greed that ruined his brilliant plan.
But here is the craziest part of this whole story, the big paradox. Law's system was a complete, catastrophic failure. It ruined thousands of people and destabilized an entire country. And yet, and you have to get your head around this, his core idea that a country's wealth isn't gold and that a central bank can manage a flexible paper money supply to boost the economy, that's basically how all modern economies work today. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. Was he a reckless con man, or was he a genius who was just 300 years ahead of his time?